Stop everything, because what just happened behind the scenes might be one of the most uncomfortable and explosive celebrity moments we've seen in years. This isn't just about a Hollywood win anymore. This is about silence, tension, and questions that refuse to go away. Because while the world stood on its feet clapping and celebrating Michael B. Jordan for one of the biggest moments of his career at the Academy Awards, there was one voice people expected to hear immediately. One reaction that usually never takes long. And when it didn't come, everything started to feel different. That voice belonged to Steve Harvey, a man known for always having something to say, especially when it comes to culture, relationships, and major public moments. But this time there was nothing. No congratulatory post, no interview mention, no subtle acknowledgement, just silence. And that silence didn't go unnoticed. In fact, it became one of the loudest parts of the entire situation. First, people thought maybe he was just late to respond. Maybe he was waiting for the right moment. But as hours turned into days, that explanation started to fall apart. Because this wasn't just any moment. This was a defining career milestone for Michael B. Jordan, and historically moments like this bring out immediate reactions from figures like Steve Harvey. So the longer the silence lasted, the more uncomfortable it became. And then people remembered something else. This wasn't the first time Steve had stayed quiet about Michael. Just weeks earlier, there had already been a major moment that shook audiences worldwide. During a live segment at the BAFTA Awards, an unexpected and offensive outburst disrupted the stage. A racial slur was heard, loud enough to spark outrage across social media and mainstream media alike. It was the kind of moment that demands a response, especially from influential voices within the culture. Many celebrities spoke out. Discussions about respect, accountability, and the treatment of Black actors dominated timelines. But once again, Steve Harvey said nothing. At the time, people didn't connect the dots. It was just another instance of selective engagement. But now, with his continued silence after the Oscars, that earlier moment is being re-examined in a completely different way. Because now it looks like a pattern. Two major moments. Same person at the center. Same silence from someone who usually speaks. And once the internet noticed that pattern, everything escalated fast. Social media didn't just react, it exploded. Posts flooded timelines asking the same question over and over again. Why is Steve Harvey silent? And as always, when there's a gap in information, people start filling it with theories. Some were simple. Others were far more complex. But one theory quickly rose above the rest because it connected personal history to present behavior in a way that felt almost too perfect. That's when the focus shifted to Lori Harvey. Suddenly, this wasn't just about public commentary anymore. It became personal. People immediately brought up her past relationship with Michael B. Jordan, a relationship that had once been highly public and widely followed. When it ended, there were rumors, speculation, and unanswered questions that never fully disappeared. And now, those unresolved details were being pulled back into the spotlight. According to unverified claims circulating online, Steve Harvey had allegedly been advised, or even warned, not to publicly support Michael under any circumstances. Not to congratulate him, not to mention his name, not even indirectly acknowledge the moment. There's no confirmed evidence backing this claim, but it spread quickly because it gave people something they felt they were missing: an explanation. And once that idea took hold, everything else started to shift. Old clips resurfaced. Interviews where Steve joked about his daughter's relationships were suddenly being analyzed with a more serious tone. Comments that once seemed harmless were now being reinterpreted as hints of something deeper. People began asking whether there had always been tension behind the scenes, something the public never fully saw. Then came another layer. An alleged audio clip that briefly went viral. In it, a voice claimed to be Steve Harvey, suggesting he couldn't freely comment on certain situations without facing consequences in his personal life. The clip was unclear, unverified, and heavily debated, but that didn't stop it from influencing the conversation. Because in situations like this, perception can be just as powerful as proof. By this point, the internet had split into two distinct perspectives. One side argued that Steve Harvey was simply being a father, that protecting his daughter and avoiding unnecessary public tension was the priority. From that angle, his silence wasn't suspicious, it was understandable. The other side saw it very differently. They believed his silence sent a message, especially considering his usual willingness to speak on controversial topics. To them, this wasn't just personal, it was selective. And that's where the situation becomes more complicated than it first appears. Because public figures don't operate in a vacuum. Every decision they make, including the decision to say nothing, exists at the intersection of personal relationships and public expectations. Steve Harvey isn't just a media personality, he's also a father. And those two roles don't always align perfectly, especially when past relationships and public narratives are involved at the same time. Michael B. Jordan's response, or lack of one, added another layer entirely. While the internet debated, speculated, and dissected every detail, he remained completely silent. No reaction to the theories, no acknowledgement of the conversation surrounding him, just focus on the moment itself. That kind of silence can be interpreted in multiple ways. Some see it as professionalism, others see it as strategy, but regardless of how it's viewed, it created a stark contrast with the chaos happening online. While everyone else was reacting, he wasn't moving at all. And sometimes that kind of stillness speaks louder than anything else. Then came another wave of alleged leaks. This time, screenshots of supposed internal conversations began circulating. According to the accounts sharing them, these messages came from people connected to Steve Harvey's circle. The content suggested that boundaries had been set regarding public interactions and commentary. Again, none of this was verified, but it spread rapidly because it aligned with what people were already starting to believe. One specific line from those screenshots went viral almost instantly. It hinted at a clear rule: no public support, no exceptions. Whether real or not, that idea became central to the narrative, because it explained the silence in a way that felt structured, not accidental. And that's what made the situation feel so intense. Not just the silence itself, but the possibility that it wasn't a choice. Still, it's important to separate confirmed facts from speculation. What we know for certain is simple. Michael B. Jordan had a major moment at the Oscars. He experienced a controversial incident at the BAFTAs weeks earlier. And Steve Harvey did not publicly comment on either situation. Everything else exists in the space between assumption and interpretation. But that space is exactly where stories like this grow. Because in today's digital environment, audiences don't just consume moments, they analyze them. They revisit them, break them down, and connect them to past events in ways that create larger narratives. Sometimes those narratives reveal real patterns. Other times, they reflect how people interpret incomplete information. And maybe that's the real story here. Not whether there's a hidden rule or a controlled silence, but how quickly silence itself becomes meaningful. How the absence of a reaction can spark more conversation than the reaction ever would have. And how public figures are constantly navigating expectations that don't always account for their personal realities. So now the question remains: will that silence eventually be broken? Or will it stay exactly as it is? Because right now it's doing something powerful. It's keeping people watching. It's keeping people questioning.